Hola, Kamil Ali Jackson. I'm so happy to have you on the Roar webinar series. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you, Josefina?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. You are the co-founder of Aclaris Therapeutics.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
And I want to start with your leadership style. I want to talk about what you think are the qualities that have helped you become a successful leader.
Okay. Well, I think the first quality is I'm very, very passionate about life. And I intentionally say life, not work or not a job or not a career. It's about living. And so I bring that to work every single day. I always have, a smile on my lips. I'm always laughing. When you hear me coming down the hallway, and you can hear me coming down the hallway, everyone tells me I walk very hard. It's because I really have a passion for life. So I think that's what keeps me going. Also, the ability to see miracles. I see miracles in the ordinary and the everyday. I make the ordinary extraordinary by the way I perceive things. So I'm always telling my daughters, you can control what you see, you can control how you process that information and what your perspective is based upon what you do with that information. So I'm always telling them, look at the simple things and always look at them as if they are extraordinary.
I love
And
that.
another thing, of course, is inexhaustible energy. Okay. I believe, my husband calls me the Energizer Bunny because I keep on going. But I believe that you can outsmart and outthink and be more talented than the smartest and the most talented person, as long as you have this inexhaustible energy, always getting things done, not waiting for tomorrow to get something done. I always get it done today.
I love that. I think you're right. I think if you look at things and say, I can either get to it right now or wait until tomorrow, it's a different process altogether, right? The energy, you're actually, I tell my kids this all the time. If you're walking past the floor and you see a piece of paper, pick it up. Right? Because if you pass by the floor again, it's taking time and effort to have to think about that paper again.
That's exactly right. And also, I have to tell you, the reason why I don't leave anything for tomorrow is because I had a 3-year-old son, my firstborn and my only son. I've got 3 daughters. And my son Ross died at the age of 3. So I know tomorrow's not necessarily coming. And as a result of that, I don't leave anything for tomorrow. Tomorrow is new opportunities, new problems. It's not for leftovers from yesterday. So that's the way I always focus on: do it today, get it done today.
There's and I want to get back to what you just said, but there's a woman that I know, her name's Roslyn, and she says, why would you wait till tomorrow? There's 24 hours today. There's so much time to get it done.
That's right. That's exactly right. And use every one of those hours wisely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, you're actually jumping into, you had this major impact in your life, the loss of your son. And I know that we hadn't, but how has that propelled you forward?
Well, I think the reason that I have been successful is because of what came out of that tragedy for me. Specifically, one of my habits, one of my rituals that I believe that you cannot underestimate is the fact that every single morning you have to get up. And when my child died, I did not want to get up. I wanted to stay lying down on the ground. And I had a 18-month-old daughter, Kendall, who didn't know what was going on. And so she wouldn't let me stay down. And I also had a mother, Ruth, who I could have let my mother take care of my child, but my mother would not allow me to stay in bed. So between Kendall, the 18-month-old, and my mother, Ruth, they made me get back up. And as a result of that, since 1994, when he died, I have not sat down since. In fact, I have a standing desk at my office And there's a reason for that. It's because there's so much time wasted and energy wasted if you're sitting down. When you're standing up, you see a lot more about life. So I always tell people, keep standing and stand up.
I actually have a standing desk as well, and I feel like when I do put it up, I am more active, I'm more engaged, and you're right, the perspective does change when you're standing up than when you're sitting down. It's almost, wouldn't you say it's almost like a passive and an active thing? If you're sitting down, it's more passive. If you're standing up, you're more active, you're more engaged with your environment.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Let's talk about some of the habits. You mentioned habits and rituals that you do. I, like you, when I get up in the morning, you do have to get up, right? When I get up in the morning, I always make my bed. I say this all the time. And I make it because it helps me realize that the day has begun, and the sleeping, we're all done with that. The dreaming and sleeping, I'm done with that. And it helps me propel me forward. Can you talk about some of those habits that you have?
Well, in the workspace of my life, one habit or practice that I engage in is take credit, all the credit that is due you. If you sit and wait for people to acknowledge your excellence, you're going to be waiting a long time. Acknowledge your own excellence, okay? Men have this down pat. They understand that if they've done something, they need to let everybody know that they've done it. And if they've improved upon something, they let other people know it. So I'm not saying, embellish or lie, but I'm saying if you did it, claim it and let the world know that you did it. Because it's so important for you to acknowledge your own accomplishments. All right. There's nothing wrong with you bragging about how well you're doing something. In fact, don't worry about others saying that you're bragging. Channel your own mother and brag on, is what I say.
It takes a little bit of time to get comfortable with that, right? So culturally, you're often told, you don't brag about these things. You don't brag. It's just, they should recognize that you're working hard, whoever they is, right? That you are, but you're right. If you do not take it and say, I did this, I should be recognized for that.
Right.
Somebody else will do it, and I've been the recipient of that in the past until I learned how to take my own credit for my own things.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So don't just raise your hand to do the work. Also raise your hand when you've completed the work and you've done it successfully. And so I think that's what we forget. We're waiting for somebody else to kind of like tap us on the shoulder and say, you did a good job. And you've got to be your own cheerleader. So that's one of the things I definitely learned, during my working career. Another thing I learned is hiring excellence. Don't shy away from hiring talented and highly skilled people, because those people have their own personal work ethic. They are not trying to compete and work at the level of other people based upon what other people are doing. They have internalized their own high standards. And so they're trying to maintain those standards. So they're going to give you their best every day. And also, if you hire well, you get the credit for it. Right? It shows good judgment. It ultimately comes back to you, and people think, that's a really good manager, or that's a really good identifier of excellent talent. So hire well is another lesson I've learned.
Before you go on, there's two things I want to kind of talk about. One, in terms of hiring well, right? There's the hiring well because you recognize that you need X skills to get the job done for your company. There's another, I think, another opportunity when you see someone that has the potential and the drive. They may not be doing the job, and you know that they're not going to get an opportunity elsewhere because of so many reasons. What do you think about that?
Well, when I say hire well, one of the things I identify when I'm hiring somebody is people that they may not necessarily have come to their full potential, but you see something in them. You see the fact that they have initiative, or that they think creatively, or that they're always willing to do whatever you ask them. No task is below them. So when you identify people like that, those are the people that I at least want on my team. So it's not just about hiring the people that have all of the credentials and they check all the boxes. It's also looking for those intangibles. The person that's got the inexhaustible energy, the person that exudes positivity, the person that says, raises their hand every time you ask someone in the room who's willing to do X, Y, and Z. So all of those things are not necessarily you check a box, you've got the best credentials. Those are also things, those are those intangibles that says to me, this is somebody I want on my team because I think they're somebody that's going to want to help me succeed as well as the company succeed.
I like that. I think you're right. I think it's absolutely on both, whether you hire somebody that has the skills, but I have found when I was running Color and now when running Right Media that I was able to identify folks that did not have the skills at that particular time, but had something about them that exuded, they were a great speaker, or they had a certain sort of swag about them that gave them credibility in ways that I needed for the company. And I was able to help them with the skills they needed in order to be successful.
Right. Skills are important, but attitude sometimes is even more important. I tell my children this. There's a poem by Paul Laurence Dunbar called We Wear the Mask. And so Black folks know this. We have always worn the mask in the workspaces of our lives. In fact, figuratively, and now literally when we were supposed to be wearing masks, we should have this down pat. I don't want you to bring your authentic self to work. I want you to bring your best self to work. I don't want you to bring the person that, when your mama tells you to do something and you roll your eyes because you don't want to do it, leave that person at home. Bring your best self to work. So that means it's not about lack of authenticity or authenticity. It's about making sure that you are exhibiting and expressing the best you. So an attitude, even if you don't have the skills, can sometimes get you the job if you've got a positive attitude.
I totally agree with you. When I worked at Cargill, I used to practice before I went into a sales meeting, smiling, because that allowed me to change. So I would just put on this smile and it worked. It helped me get in the space I needed to be in order to have a productive sales meeting or to be able to get the client I needed. One of the things before we started recording, before we got on, you said something that I thought was great. As simple as it sounded, it pretty profound. It is easy to lead when things are easy. Can you talk about how your leadership style has evolved between the good times and the bad times, and how constant your style is?
It's interesting that you bring this up because I had a situation in one of the companies that I was working for where a senior C-suite individual was telling me that I needed to show vulnerability. And we were having a pretty hard time at one of the companies that I was working, that I had helped found, and things weren't going the way we thought it was supposed to be going. And so I said to him, you know what? That's a luxury. I don't have the luxury in this group of all men to show vulnerability. I have to show leadership because I recognized the individuals that I was working with. I recognized their not shortcomings necessarily, but the fact that when times were hard, they did not know how to lead out of that particular setting. And when times are hard for me, that's something that I grab with both hands. That's not a time where I go hide, under the bed. I actually thrive off of making sure that we're going to navigate through whatever is happening at the time that's happening. So this COVID-19 situation is a perfect example. Our company, I believe, we were ahead of the game because we had already been through a time in the cycle of our company that wasn't the best for us. And so as a result of the lessons that we learned during that time a couple of months ago, we were already prepared to deal with the pandemic. Not to say that, you know, there weren't some curveballs thrown our way, but we had already gone through a pretty rough patch. So we realized you have to be strong. This is not the time for you to be vulnerable. And so I try to lead with example, and I think I've succeeded. You don't know you succeeded until after you've gotten over the hump, and then other people, you know, you're still standing. Bottom line, that's when you know you've succeeded.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, once you're past it, you can see it's almost like you when you're running, you don't really realize what you're running, all the side images. But once you get past it, you can look back and say, these are all the obstacles that I had to go through, but I was doing what needed to be done to get the job done.
That's right. And leadership doesn't come from having a whole bunch of successes. Leadership comes from having a lot of failure. Because with failure, you know it's not fatal. You can survive. You're going to get through this, okay? And when you do survive and succeed ultimately, you realize that what you learn from your failure is what you're bringing along with you, not necessarily what you learn from your successes.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Talk to me about who inspires you.
I can tell you that there is a certain attitude that inspires me first, and then I'll tell you about the people that inspire me.
I love the attitude.
So somebody with a positive attitude inspires me. I keep telling my daughters this and they keep rolling their eyes. I keep on saying, you can control what you see and what you think about what you see and what you do with that information. So if you look at the world in wonder, okay, and look at something that's ordinary and think it's extraordinary, that's all within your control. How you are perceiving that, how are you going to deal with that challenge? So I believe that if you always look at things in wonder, okay, you'll always move forward, not backwards. And so, you know, I keep telling my children, you know, I'm always saying, you know, what are the odds that this happened? And they're always rolling their eyes and saying, if you spend as much time, you know, thinking positively rather than rolling your eyes, you know, you'd be able to see that everything is wonderful. In Christmas time, I went down to Atlanta and we visited a long time friend of my husband's from college, and he has a special needs daughter. And the special needs daughter, I'd never met her before. She loves Michael Bublé. I love Michael Bublé. He speaks to her soul and her mind. He soothes her, just like he soothes me. And I thought to myself, oh my God, we have this connection. Never met her before. Isn't this wonderful? And that's the way I think about things. I tell my children, what are the odds that this 10-year-old would love Michael Bublé the same way a 61-year-old woman would love him? And, you know, they're looking like, oh my goodness, this is ridiculous. And I'm thinking, no, that's the way you have to look at life. The ordinary is, you know, you should always be awed by the ordinary.
Mm-hmm. I like that. So the attitude is what inspires you. How about a particular, sometimes I think I am particularly inspired when I meet folks and they are generous and great at what they do, but they don't have an ego around it.
I believe everybody should have ego. I think everybody should have ego. Ego is confidence, okay? Turn it around, you know, give it another label, all right? Ego's got a bad rap, but you need to have confidence. You need to walk in the room with confidence. If you remember that your mom is going to be just as upset as anybody else's mom in the room, if you're gone, then you have confidence, okay? So to me, ego equals confidence. In terms of the type of people that inspire me, that show a lot of confidence, I've got 3 sisters. One who's 65 years old, and she is running a medical marijuana company. Another one who's 63 years old, and she has the gift of gab and this talent of never meeting a stranger. Everybody she meets, she's a friend. And so she takes that talent and she advocates on behalf of her healthcare constituencies. I have another sister who's 60 years old, and that sister, she always puts family first. No matter what she's doing in the workspace of her life, or what she's doing in any particular moment in time, she always keeps her children and her family first. I had a 48-year-old brother. He died at the age of 48. He taught me how to be satisfied with what you have. So that's why he inspired me. He lived as a file clerk in New York City in a third floor walk-up apartment with no bathroom. You shared the bathroom on the fourth floor with the other people in the apartment complex. He was always satisfied with what he had. He had his music and he had his manicures. And that he was absorbed with the music the entire time. He showed me you never whine. And as long as you are satisfied with what you have and you live within your means, you've got everything you need. So those are the kind of people that have inspired me, in my career and in my personal life as well.
Mm. So I think about, of course you have your family, you have your friends. I have people in my life that sometimes tell me what I don't want to hear. Talk to me about people in your life that are like that.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I have three beautiful, accomplished daughters: Kendall, who's 27, Karis, who's 24, and Cameron, who's 20. And my daughter Kendall is a lawyer in California, and my other two daughters are here with me now at home, and they are. One's a 1L at the University of Pennsylvania Law School, and she's taking exams right now. And then the other one is a sophomore neuroscience at the University of Pennsylvania, and she's also taking exams. So they decided that this is the moment to critique my mothering skills. And so in between taking exams, they have explained to me that I was one of the strictest mothers of any of their classmates, that I was the craziest mother of any of their classmates. And Josefina, when I look at them and I look at the potential and I look at them, they're at the top of their game and they have everything in front of them. I say to myself, thank you, Ruth Ollie, for being a, quote, crazy mother. Because as a result of that made me live fearlessly. And I imparted that perspective to my three daughters. And as a result, I think that they're a testament to the fact that my approach worked, because I don't think or care about what other people think of me because of my mother and her mental illness. I couldn't worry about what people thought. And so those are the people that are always telling me something, not necessarily positive about me, but I look at it in a positive light and say, thank you. This only helps me be better.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. You're absolutely right. I mean, I can tell you stories about my boys. And but I want to talk a little bit about, you've been extremely successful. You've built 5 companies.
3 companies I've co-founded. And then one of the companies that we co-founded, we have several other small companies that are part of the portfolios of that company.
That's really successful. That has a huge amount of drive. And I want to take a step back. I want to talk about maybe women that are perhaps, I don't want to talk about the up and coming stars, right? But I want to talk about women that maybe are in their 40s and 50s that need inspiration to be able to step forward. What type of recommendations do you give them?
Well, first of all, I think you have to decide how you're going to define success for yourself, because it doesn't mean that you have to be successful in your 20s, or that there's some expiration date on when you become successful. As I mentioned, my sister, who's 65 years old, she's running a medical marijuana company. If she had thought success had passed her by because she was 65, she wouldn't be doing what she's doing now. Same thing for my sister, who's 63. I think when I founded my first company, co-founded it with my colleagues, I was in my 40s. So there's no expiration date on success. But the way I define success, which has helped me, and this is what I would tell other people who are looking for a what I think is a workable definition of success, is Success is not about having it all or achieving it all. That's greed. Success is about creating jobs and livelihoods for other people, including yourself. And so I believe success is not inwardly focused, it's externally focused. You're supposed to be looking outward. When I was a lawyer, I was always focusing on minimizing risks for other people. And when I became a job creator, it became much more rewarding than being a legal advisor. But also, I realized I was creating jobs and livelihoods for other people so that they could actually feed their families and go on and thrive and succeed. And so that's how I define success. The fact that I created value, not only for myself, but for other people as well. Also, look to your success role models. My mother was my role model. In the 60s and 70s, this was a housewife. She did not work outside the home. In the 60s and 70s, she was suffering from manic depression. That's what they called it back then. It's now called bipolar disorder. I had no idea what was going on. In my 80s, I brought her to Harvard Law School with me. I was 24 years old and I was a woman. But she had no place else to go. She would have been out on the street. She would have been homeless. And so I decided to bring her to Harvard Law School with me. And my mother was always up. She was never down. She only had the manic part. She never had the depressed part. I thought to myself, here's a woman who has nothing. She got divorced after 28 years. She had no home. She had no money. She had no career. And yet she was never down. So how could I, with all this opportunity, ever be down? And as a result of that, I realized, she had actually accomplished a lot more than a lot of people realize. She had 4 successful daughters who were very successful in the workspace of their lives. And then grandchildren that she helped raise, they've actually achieved more than their mothers have achieved. And so I realized this woman who, because of mental illness, never transformed her potential into reality, actually succeeded beyond anything anyone else had ever imagined. And to me, that's what success is. When you are outwardly trying to help others, when you are selflessly giving to help others. And
I think you're right. I mean, as I think about your mom, her success is your success, your kid's success. As I think about my mom, I think about the same thing. Her accomplishments are really based on what we've been able to do with our lives, because she was so instrumental in helping us become great women and great men. And so for that, I'm thankful, like you are. We have 1 minute left. This is a third. We could go on and on, right?
That's exactly right.
Right.
That's exactly right. Josefina, I want to read a quote that you have in your book. This is Roar If You Have to. 10 Inspirational Tales of Success in the Women Who Roared by Josefina. Because it says, here's to strong women. May we know them. May we be them. May we raise them. And that's what I feel.
Yes. Thank you, Kamil. It was so great speaking with you. Thank you for sharing some great advice. I know that there's a number of women here that are inspired by your story. They want to know more. I think sometimes we don't necessarily want to hear the roadmap of somebody else's success or follow it. Not hear it, but follow it. But we want to have some inspiration in order to say, hey, she was able to do it. She had some challenges along the way. This is how I can do it as well. So for that, thank you, Kamil, and we will talk soon.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Josefina, stay safe, stay inside, and stay healthy.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.